Paying taxes stinks. Did you know that you can leave your home country in a specific way and actually stop paying taxes but keep your passport? Today I have an expert from Australia who's helping all of these Australians who are looking for a better future somewhere else with no taxes. He's helping them do it the right way. And I'm going to ask some questions and we're going to get through it. So whether you're from Australia, I think it's going to be super valuable if you're from Australia. But if you're watching this from Canada or from Germany or from Spain or from some other country where they charge you a lot of taxes, we're going to talk about how you leave your country and what options are available for when you are leaving. So Lyndon, thank you for being here today. Where are you calling from?
Hey James, thanks for having me on. I'm calling from Queensland in Australia, about an hour north of Brisbane, the capital of Queensland, the state of Australia.
Nice, nice. I'm really happy to have you on the channel, and I want to hear a little bit about what's going on out there. There's a lot of Australians that wanting to leave Australia. Tell me a little bit about that and how you're helping people, and then we can dig into it a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think just timing, circumstance, global events. I think it's a combination of things. It's created some uncertainty here in Australia, and there's a large amount of people and businesses looking at their options and looking at leaving. Which our business, Secure Shores, is exactly that. Just helping people understand what options they actually have to start with, and then as a second phase, going forward and helping them execute on those global options. Yeah.
Wonderful. So people just want to stop paying taxes, want a better future, and they can work from abroad. So why should some of these Australians and other people watching this video? Why do you think people should consider multiple citizenships and residencies, and what should they consider as when they're thinking about leaving their home country?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a question we get asked the most. And the answer is it doesn't matter what I think. We work with the customer to understand specifically through three lenses for them. Them as a personal entity. So where should they be a tax resident of? Where should they do personal banking? We look at then their business interests. So where would it make sense? Would it make sense for an LLC or trust structures? And then we consider the significant others or people they love, i.e. family, as far as what that means for them. So it's a combination of data across those three different silos, James, that we look at to then be able to give a recommendation rather than trying to sell kind of a canned product. That's not what we do. We're looking at it from a 30,000 foot view and going, okay, give us the data and then we'll work out and establish what is most optimal for you and your business and the people that you love.
What do you think the biggest challenges are for people, whether it's something they have to understand or something they have to sacrifice potentially when leaving their home country? What are the top two or three biggest challenges people are facing when considering or when actually making the move outside of the home country to a more tax efficient, freedom-minded structure or plan?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think for my customer base and who I'm speaking with, definitely family is a big consideration. So there is lots of players in the internationalization space, and very few for Australians will consider family. You'll get told to move to Costa Rica and your problems will be solved. But that mightn't work for someone that has aging parents or even children, whether that's young or old in the country. So, yeah, consideration as far as location from Australia is probably the number one thing. Whether you want to be sub 1 day back to Australia, Bali, Vanuatu, somewhere relatively close, Singapore, or whether you're okay with being multiple days, multiple plane flights, South America or Europe, other places away. But I would say family is probably the biggest consideration for everyone that I deal with in this business.
Nice. So, I mean, there's not really anything that close to Australia. It's pretty isolated in terms of like what's close, right? So, I mean, everything's kind of far. But you mentioned something there that I want to dig into that I'm curious about. When someone's breaking their residency with Australia, their tax residency, and we didn't really talk too much about tax residency and all that stuff, but when someone's breaking their tax residency, what are the rules? How much time can they spend in Australia? So if I'm Australian and I want to stop paying taxes, what's the least I can leave Australia for? Can I still kind of live in Australia? How does it work?
Yeah, good question. So number one thing we help people with is dispel kind of the myths and grey area around this. It's very simple. There's three things that the Australian Tax Office, the governing body, that will look at when determining your tax residency status. The first is where do you reside? Meaning where are you spending your time, where are your assets, where's your family, where's your business located. So there's essentially a list that you need to work through as far as residing and what counts as residing in Australia. If you do pass the resides test, you then look at what they call the domicile test, which is very simple, is where is your permanent home? If your permanent home is in Australia, you're more than likely going to be deemed an Australian tax resident. What we've got to look at is moving your center of life outside the country and visiting Australia versus center of life staying in Australia and visiting other places. The third thing then, which some people get this one backwards, that the bright line test or the 183 days in a tax year, that's on the assumption that you're already a non-tax resident, James, and then you're returning to Australia and you're not going to stay for more than 183 days in a tax year. Now, remember, the tax year in Australia is different to the US and other jurisdictions. So this is something that people need to pay close attention to. So yeah, you mustn't stay for more than 183 days cumulatively in the tax year, being July 1st to June 30 the following year in Australia. So they're the three things that we've got to look at and consider when people are looking at dropping their Australian tax residency. But it's not good enough just to spend time outside Australia, just to go to Bali for 6 months of the year, leave everything as it is, and claim that you're a non-tax resident. That doesn't fly. You've actually got to move your centre of life out of the country and then use Australia as a place that you do spend time, but not more than 183 days in a tax year.
It's obviously in the Australian tax authority's best interest to determine you a tax resident in the country, and you have to really go above and beyond to show that you're not really still a tax resident. And these rules are basically the same in all the different countries. There's certain, of course, compliance things you have to do. You have to file certain forms. You have to notify them a certain way. And that's really kind of technical, but I have the same conversation with people in other countries, and it's really, the concept is the same. You really have to actually leave if you do want to break tax residence. So that means selling the family home. That means, really moving the money abroad and that kind of stuff. So that's really interesting. In the US, for example, it's 120 days year over year. It's 183 days in 1 year, but if you're spending time in the US, it ends up being 120 days year over year to determine residency, and that's on the pure mathematical formula. But if you're leaving the US, it doesn't matter because citizens pay tax whether they're here in the US or not, so it doesn't matter. But that's the only country like that, really. There's two other ones, but we had a conversation before, but is that one of the biggest surprises to people that you're talking to, that you can leave Australia and keep your passport?
100%. Yeah, majority of people are under the impression that leaving Australia, choosing a more tax-friendly jurisdiction. I guess where people have it kind of twisted is that they're thinking about which country is the most tax beneficial for my company. They're not thinking about them as a personal tax entity. The fact that you can 100% break tax residency away from Australia or giving up your passport comes as a surprise to a lot of people, James.
And I'm sure there's still ways. No, I'm fine. I'm sure there's still ways that you can structure business. Let's say you have a bunch of restaurants in Australia. I'm sure you can structure it to where you still pay tax in Australia on that stuff, but you leave and you don't pay tax on your personal activities. Just like you can have a business in the US and not be a US person, but that business pays tax in the US, and there's different things you have to do. But it's definitely possible and legal to do it that way. Just every situation is unique. That's why you and I are here, right? Helping people through their unique situations. So what are the most common business and types of entities? How are people doing business when they're leaving Australia?
When we look at online business, there's really one jurisdiction that shines through for Australians, and that's the US, utilizing the LLC structures in various states in the US. So I would say 9 in 10 people that we're assisting doing company setups at the moment would be utilizing US LLCs as part of their globalization structure, usually for that online business that they're looking at doing, and utilizing the nature of the LLCs for the pass-through taxation, which then flows into what we touched on around personal tax jurisdiction as well.
Yeah, the US LLC is a great option. And if you've been watching my channel, just a quick plug for myself hosting the interview. If you've been watching my channel, you guys know that's all I'm really helping is non-residents who have LLCs do everything the right way and get all the best bank accounts and do their taxes the right way and all that stuff. But if you're new and you're watching this, just subscribe to the video, because that's all I'm talking about all the time, and I'd be happy to help you with free consults and all that stuff. So I want to jump back into this after my shameless plug of myself. What's going on in Australia? Are they going to change the rules and make it harder? Because I know in the last 10 years, they've kept making it harder and harder and harder to break residency in Australia. What's some of the pending fears that we have, or why should we do it now?
There was a board or ATO discussion paper that was written several years ago, which there were some recommendations handed down at that point for big change and reform to the personal tax residency laws. To date, none of that has been adopted or gazetted or passed through Parliament as laws. But what they were considering was reducing the time in country to more than 45 days in a tax year to look at your tax residency. And then there was several more tests that they were looking at implementing as well. The overarching thought behind that paper was, quote, to make tax residency more adhesive for Australian citizens. It's no secret the way that that probably will go over time, which does create some urgency while people can get out and can utilise the 183 days a year like we spoke about now. I don't believe that will always be the case. I do believe there will be some tax reform to the personal tax laws there in Australia as far as residency goes, some stage in the next 3 to 5 years, but we're just not sure exactly when. Yeah, that's the status there, James. There's definitely a direction and kind of a path that's been charted, and it involves tax residency becoming more adhesive, is their language.
They've been, for the last like 5 or 6 years in the US, going the other way, which is kind of funny. They've been proposing from both sides ways to make it so you Americans out abroad don't have to keep paying US taxes or more extensive exclusions from them. So that's favorable, and it hasn't happened the same way. But it's funny because most countries are getting stricter on the rules for leaving because it's so easy to just go somewhere and say you left and work and really have an intent to come back but pay no taxes in the meantime. So that's why it's important to work with people who know what they're doing to make sure you do follow all the rules, and that's both for leaving your home country and fixing your taxes and also setting up your company where you're going to be holding all your money. Next question. This is one we had talked about. Why should clients consider private banking outside of Australia if they plan to exit? Like, what do you recommend for banking solutions for a lot of your clients?
So, if you look at Australia and the banking system, it puzzles most people outside of the world. Australia is one of the only places in the world that the banks can really have a free-for-all with variable interest rates. So, the big four banks in Australia are amongst the top 15 most profitable banks in the world. So, that tells you all you need to know about the Australian banking system. So, when considering leaving the country, we still live in a fiat currency system, although crypto and other things that have made inroads, it's still important to have access to fiat currency. So when you're considering or getting ready to leave, we're looking at people's banking options quite often. So one of the biggest misnomers around banking also, James, is, but I thought I just had to have banking in the country that I'm going to, do all my banking out of that country, which we're advising against that. As we see that at the moment, someone will uplift from Australia, downlift in Dubai. Everything's then beholden to that same country, which kind of defeats the purpose. Some of the popular banking options that we've been looking at, depending sort of on three different things, on people's comfortability with deposit or minimum deposit requirements in jurisdictions, say like Singapore or Hong Kong. Looking at Georgia is a popular one. If you don't want to visit the country and you're not looking at like an enterprise banking system, Georgia is definitely very popular for personal private banking. And then the US as well, utilizing the LLC, you obviously get access to the US banking system. So those are kind of three jurisdictions, two personal, one business being the US, that are quite popular. Majority of clients that we have aren't really looking to travel to a country just to set up personal banking. They more just want that as a hedge against, not really having to use the Australian system once they're gone. Yeah, I would say the Bank of Georgia, we've banked with them personally for a long time as well, has been a really good solution for people in that situation.
I've heard good things about Georgia, about people banking there, and I have a number of clients out there, both actual Georgian people and people who just moved to Georgia. It's an interesting, very entrepreneurial group out there, taking from my small experiential like sample size. I had a quick question. How's it? So I know you're helping people leave, like follow the tax rules. How is it like with moving the families abroad? Do you have a lot of people coming back to Australia? Do you have like people unhappy with like because it's completely different, like you said, moving to Bali from Australia or moving to Costa Rica? It's a completely different lifestyle. So like the kids going to school, like do you have people coming back? Have you had what are some of the problems you've had people that you've heard from clients? Because obviously it's not all perfect, but
So majority of our clients, they don't have issues because we spend a lot of time planning, and we'll then give them a list of assumptions. So they'll go and visit these countries and kind of check off the assumptions as they go, rather than just going sight unseen. Where we see people returning to Australia is when they make usually a pretty emotional decision to up and leave, and they'll just pick a jurisdiction and go without the forethought and planning. So I know that's happened in Dubai quite a lot, where people just aren't prepared for what life is like there, and they last kind of 2-3 months and then back to Australia to reassess. It's also happened in Bali, because what's happened, James, is lots of Australians used to travel to Bali before there was a lot of immigration and a lot of development. You know, mid to I guess call it 2015 through say 2020 pre-COVID. Whereas now, Bali, Indonesia is quite different in the years post-COVID. There's been a lot of immigration, a lot of development. So what we're finding with Bali is people have a picture in their mind of what it used to be like. They go, and it's not actually like that anymore. So that's why, for us, the planning piece is really important in nailing what we call a blueprint, so that you then go and visit these countries, not with the rose-colored glasses on, but with your list of assumptions that you're actually ticking off, whether it's schooling, whether it's access to other services, lifestyle things, etc. So yeah, for us, just planning properly reduces the likelihood of then, a false start when going global, for sure.
Are you working only with Australians?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just because when I started this journey 10 years ago, I couldn't find an Australian person that had done what I wanted to do and actually left. Always try to work with someone that's actually done what I've wanted to do, and take advice from someone that's actually walked the path before. So that's the reason I'm sitting in front of you here today, James. I couldn't find someone back then, and I got tired of people asking me how I did it. So I decided that I'd actually, build the platform of Secure Shores and share that to kind of dispel some of the grey areas and make a path. So for that reason, yeah, I'm focused purely just on helping Australians at the moment.
So you're not going to pass your 183 days calling me from Australia right now, right? You're staying under the limit.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Quick flying visit.
Quick flying visit,
We're all
yeah.
good.
Thanks for being here, guys. If you're watching the video and you are Australian, schedule a call with Lyndon. How do people want, if they want to like reach out and see how they can leave Australia?
Yeah, absolutely. Instagram, secure.shores. You'll find links there to book a call. I'm more than happy to speak with 15, 20 minutes for anyone about the situation. And if there's a thought that we could help, then we can run the blueprint process together and kind of take the plans from there. So yeah, Instagram, the links in the bio there, you'll find your way to my calendar. So yeah, more than happy to speak with anyone that has questions.
I appreciate you being here, buddy. And if you are anywhere, not Australian, but anywhere in the world, and you have U.S. companies, you need help with U.S. compliance, mailing addresses, getting bank accounts open, or you just want to talk to me to review your strategy, your setup, we're happy to help. I'm a U.S. CPA, and we help in the U.S. JamesBakerCPA.com/schedule. Like and subscribe, click and follow. I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for being here, Lyndon. Have a good one. See you later.
Thanks, James. See ya.